public health and safety demanded it. The same with this vaccine mandate. We know that it has been hard for some people, but we also know if we don't do this, we're never going to put COVID behind us.
What's the
Mayor, what
trigger
about
for
the bus
mobilization
drivers, the
four?
school bus
For
drivers?
mobilization 4, what's the trigger?
Say that again?
For mobilization 4, what would trigger that
For mobilization.
for the police department?
So we have a range of contingencies. We're going to see how many. Obviously, we're down to just a couple dozen who haven't put in their paperwork, and if the trend lines are the same, many of them have already been vaccinated and just haven't put it in. But Chief Diaz feels very secure, and I have Chief Scoggins here as well, that if someone calls 911, there will not be significant impacts on the response in either fire or police.
When you say that people have put in their paperwork for exemptions, do you mean all of those have been confirmed, or are some of those still pending?
They're both, because some people haven't put in their paperwork yet.
Mayor Durkan, what about the school bus drivers?
So as you know, Seattle Public Schools is not under the city of Seattle, but I have been talking to Seattle Public Schools to see if there's anything that we can do. I know that the county executive is also, and Metro has been conferring with them to see if there's additional help that we can give there. We need to get kids to school. I don't know a parent in Seattle that wasn't happy that their kids could finally get back to school, not just for education, but for the social, emotional thing. So we want to make sure we do everything we can to support them in that work.
Okay, another question. What about fake ID, like the equivalent of fake ID, fake vaccine cards? How is that enforced?
So I think the first thing we have to get people to do is, let's get everyone their vaccinations. Let's get them their card. And right now, we are the most vaccinated city, so people are able to
Do you think you are? I know people who have fake vaccine cards.
We still know from records how many people have actually been vaccinated. We have a very high vaccination rate. You can't prevent people from doing bad acts 100%, but what we can do is incentivize people to do the right thing. And we've seen that in Seattle. Over 85% of the people are fully vaccinated in Seattle. We think that that's a really important step. King County's closing in on similar numbers, and that's what's going to keep us healthy and safe.
Mayor Durkan, you've been saying for a year.
Wait a sec.
What if a business chooses not to go through the verification process? How are you enforcing this?
I'm going to let the county executive address that.
And that's actually a public health question. So what we're doing is we're focusing on education, on providing resources. If there are businesses or customers who are flagrantly and purposefully not complying, we obviously, public health has options. They can fine, they can ultimately pull a business license, but we do not, or a restaurant license, but we do not believe that's going to be necessary. We think this is about meeting the expectations of a public that is largely vaccinated, that wants to have a safe place to go, and we're going to support people in that.
Mayor Durkan, you've been saying for a year that we can't afford to lose any more police officers. How come pretty soon I can show a negative COVID test to get into a football game with 60,000 people in your city, but you're not going to let your officers show a negative test to continue to serve the citizens of Seattle?
Every decision we've made throughout this, we've really grounded our decisions on public health, safety, and data. We know testing was the best we had before we had vaccines, but it wasn't effective. We tested correction officers, for example, but still had huge outbreaks in our jails and our facilities. We know that testing tells you if you have COVID, but once you test positive, you've probably already transmitted it to people.
The vaccinated people can get COVID as well.
The amount of people who get COVID from vaccination, as you know, is very small. You're significantly more likely. If we want to really constrain this, I think the people of Seattle, when they dial 911, they want to know the person who's responding to that emergency is fully vaccinated.
But if that's the
And
case,
that's a
why
job
would you
requirement.
Why would you let people who are not vaccinated take a test to go into a football stadium with 60,000 people?
Again, we're talking about people who are first responders responding to emergencies for the people of Seattle. When a firefighter or a police officer goes through a front door to respond to emergencies, sometimes providing emergency care, the people of Seattle need to know that that person is fully vaccinated and least likely to transmit COVID to them or their loved ones.
I think
Mayor,
some
may I
of
ask a
these are public health questions that public health.
Mayor,
Yeah, that's right.
Time for one more question.
Mayor, with all the people are hearing on the news about the contingency plans for the police department, fire department, what do you want the citizens of Seattle to know when they get up in the morning tomorrow if they need to call 911? Are you confident that it's safe?
Yeah, unfortunately, Chief Scoggins asked the fire, but we are going to be assessing, but right now, a lot of the prognostication we have on weather to it doesn't turn out.
just look in the middle a little bit so we can all kind of start to reach you. Thank you. You know, people might be hearing on the news about concerns about how many firefighters, how many police officers. What's your reassurance to them about what's going to take place at 12:01 in the morning?
Sure, absolutely. So if someone calls 911 at 12:01 in the morning, our firefighters are going to be ready to respond just like they are right now. And the community can be confident of that our folks are going to be there. They're going to be going out the door. We're proud of our response times. Generally, we have a unit on scene 70% of the time in 5 minutes or less. If we lose a large number of people, that may fall a little bit, and that's for EMS calls. For fire calls, we're at a higher percentage than that. For ALS calls, 8 minutes or less, where we have to have a paramedic on scene, we're higher than 80%. So we may lose some folks, but we're confident that we're going to be able to get a unit out the door and respond to the community's needs.
Chief, one of those folks that you've lost is 16-year veteran Josh Gibbs, diver and technical expert in terms of rescue. Talk about some of the talent that you're losing.
Well, sure. I'm proud to lead the Seattle Fire Department. We have amazing people that serve the community each and every day. And they don't think about themselves when they do that, and that's important. So I'm proud of the work that we've done through COVID. I'm proud of the work that we do each and every day. Every day we respond to between 250 and 260 calls every single day. Our technical rescue team is one of the best in the nation. You're talking about one of our divers. We have a lot of technical teams. We have a hazmat team, fire boats. We have our dive rescues, our rescue swimmers. So I'm proud of all of our teams, and we have a lot of talented people of our 1,000 firefighters out there that continue to serve the community.
Where are you on the verification numbers?
We're at about 93% right now.
What kind of recourse do you have if somebody fakes their paperwork?
Well, anyone who submits their paperwork is going through the vaccination verification system, and we're checking the information.
Is 93% vaccinated or filed paperwork?
93% are vaccinated or close to being fully vaccinated.
Chief, what
And
about
then-
on,
What percent have filed paperwork for exemption and what percent have actually received exemption?
Let's see, we have about 55 people that have filed paperwork for exemptions. And who's approved and who's not, I don't have that in front of me.
Chief, can the fire department do its job?
Zach on the road here, and the chief can answer more questions, and we have Rachel Smith from the chamber, Dennis Worship from public health.
Before we break, I just want, since we're all together, to have us join in congratulating Allison on your final story at Cairo. Congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Dennis, do you want to come up and just once again walk through the numbers of where we are in terms of vaccinations and how important that is for people of King County and Seattle?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, I'm Dennis Worsham. I'm the interim director for Public Health Seattle King County. And of course, our best tool in this getting out of COVID and this mess is really around vaccinations. We are one of the most highly vaccinated cities and counties in the country. We're approaching 90%. Over 88% are fully vaccinated here in King County. We set a goal around our equity, is ensuring that every population would not be left behind by race, ethnicity, all over 70% where they're at. So we're very proud of the work that we've done as a public health agency with our city, with our county, and with a variety of folks who've stepped into that role. COVID is coming down. We have the Delta variant is very strong. It's our primary variant here in the community. We're coming down. The trends are down for hospitalization. Trends are down as a whole, but still too high in the community. We're still over 400 a day of new infections that are reported. And so we need to still protect people. And this policy, such as the vax verification within these restaurants and entertainment venues, are really critical, not only for the people who are patrons to go out and hit the businesses like they are, but also to the people who are working and employed in those particular environments. So we think those numbers will continue to come down. There's more vaccine information coming out all the time. Our 5 to 11-year-olds are soon going to be on the list, as well as boosters and those type of things. So we're very proud of our vaccine rates here in King County.
I know you're proud of the rates, but I'm still curious about this false, like if somebody presents a false ID in effect and they're caught, what is the penalty for that?
Yeah, well, let me first just kind of restate what was already said, is when you get a vaccine here in the state of Washington, your healthcare provider is required to log that vaccine. And that gets through the state system. So our number that we come up with, over 88% who are fully vaccinated, are those are reported by healthcare providers into the state system. So we're sure of that number. When people go into these particular environments, as we have with all health policy, is we've really relied on the people being, and the integrity of people showing up and doing the right thing. We haven't had enforcements around masks, we haven't had enforcements around a number of things. But Seattle, King County has stepped up as our residents and have done the right thing in these particular environments. So I think it will be, again, the situation, people will step up and do the right thing. We're not, if there's egregious complaints, either from patrons or from businesses, we'll follow up with them. There'll be a way for them to complain, and we'll check in with them on those particular things. But it's going to be on an honor system.